Video, I will quickly talk about the optimal choices for using Technolobe in Lord's mobile game. And just two quick big summary. First is the research project that takes more than 33 number of Technolobes are always beneficial. It's always not a bad idea to spend Technolobe on the projects that takes more than 33 Technolobes. So that's the first golden rule. And second, if you want to take a look at other projects that kind of takes less than 33 Technolobe, you can check this list that I compile. This is not an exhausted list. These are this list only include the research project that I haven't finished uh, in my research tree. But yeah, this uh, list basically includes all some of the other research projects that are beneficial to use Technolobe on, uh, that are under 33 Technolobe. Okay, and so these are the two big summaries. And if you want to understand the calculations I did behind this list, you can keep watching this video. But just a heads up, I don't have any video editing experience, so this will be one. The entire talk will be on one take, and it might not be very smooth. So pay attention to that if you decide to continue watching. Okay. So to go through this entire process of finding out the optimal choices, the first step we need to take is to understand how technolobes are used in exchange of time spent. So I did some calculations, and it turns out that technolobe uh, has only has relationship to the time spent on the research project. It does not have any relationship to the might that is related to a project. And to further briefly mention a little bit on the might time relationship for a research project, you can take a look at this chart. This basically shows that for different research projects and for different specific research, the amount of time you spend, the time to might ratio are different for all different projects. And so that gets tricky, and then we later find out that um, might is not in the calculation for Technolobe, only time is. So you can kind of ignore this chart, but just FYI if you're interested. This is not that relevant. We figure out that it's not relevant. And then we went on trying to figure out the amount of time spent, the amount of time a Technolobe can cover for uh, the amount of for a research project. Yeah, the amount of time. And then um, some initial guesses was like around 33 days, and that's what I've been using for a while. Basically, just depending on some specific research projects that takes one Technolobe, and the original time was like 33 days. So that's what I thought at first, and well, it's kind of correct. But we need to further narrow down the upper bound and the lower bound of the time constraint for one Technolobe. So what I did is to find all basically having upper bound and lower bound hypothesis for each for a Technolobe, and then I try to use the upper and lower bound hypothesis um, to calculate the expected time on the research that are really close, basically on the boundary of a Technolobe and an actual Technolobe. For example, this is a perfect case. Um, Demoralize. Actually, this is also very helpful if someone can provide me with the information uh, on the number of Technolobe that is required to research level 8 and level 10 demoralized research. But this is a good example. So here, my lower bound, basically my lowest amount of time spent on the lowest amount of time a Technolobe can represent uh, here is assumed to be 33.29 da 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 da. And then the upper bound, after some calculation, is assumed to be 33.4. So basically it's between 33.3 and 33.4. So basically we use the time to divide it by the amount of time a Technolobe can cover, and we get two different ratios. And as you can see, the lower bound only the lower bound shows that it will take more than 38 Technolobe to cover this project, to cover this research, which means it will take 39 Technolobe. However, the upper bound shows that it will only take 37.9, which means that technically 38 Technolobe will be able to cover this research project. So we need to then figure out exactly how many Technolobe is required for this project. If it's 38, then we can update the latest upper bound. And then if it's actually 39, we can update the lower bound. Oh wait, I said it opposite. It should be the other way around. So if the actual consumption of Technolobe is 38, this we can lift up the lower bound. If the actual consumption number of Technolobe is 39, we can lower the upper bound. Yeah, so that's how we narrow down the Technolobe cover time iteratively. So up to this point, after looking through all the available projects that I have, and on the website, Fandom, um, I think the current boundary, basically the bound, upper bound and lower bound, are 33.29, which is 33.3, and upper bound 33.4. And I need more information about these two research projects to further narrow it down. And after that, things get easier because we have a pretty narrow bound. So I just use upper bound to calculate um, the time wasted by each Technolobe, because at the end of the day, even if you use a Technolobe, for example, if a Technolobe can actually covers 33.4 days exactly, then you have a research project that takes 33 days, then you wasted 0.4 days anyways, and this waste cannot be saved. So we are trying to calculate the amount of time wasted by each project, and then these are the numbers. So basically I just take the upper bound of this. I calculate the basically the number of assumed a number of Technolobe for each needed for each project, and then I delete the time. So I delete this number. Basically, I delete this number, um, this number of Technolobe times the upper bound, and then I times the upper bound with this number, and then I delete with y3, which is the original time. So I get the time wasted, basically, for each project if I use Technolobe. And after I get that, now one important thing is to realize that we want to know how many days we are wasting on this research project per Technolobe. So we will divide this number by the assumed number of Technolobe to get this column. And this is here. This is where things get interesting, right? So, for example, so now we know that the one Technolobe can definitely cover at least 33 days. It's definitely within 33.3 and 33.4. So now we need to figure out the amount of time wasted. So you'll realize whenever you're doing a huge research, for example, this, which takes more than 33 number of Technolobe, then you'll realize that if you even the lowest amount of waste, the maximum amount of waste a research project can potentially give is 33.3 days. That's the maximum. Basically, you just waste an entire Technolobe. That's the maximum amount of days you can possibly waste. Which means if you divide the number by the number of Technolobe, it means that on average, you only waste below 1 day per Technolobe on a huge research project, on any huge research project. So that's why I said in the beginning, we always should use Technolobe on big, huge, gigantic research projects. So that's how we reach the first conclusion. And then the second conclusion comes with the a little chart. So I will explain how we get the number for the chart first. So we want to see, basically now we get the number of days wasted per Technolobe. We want to narrow it down to the research that wasted days per Technolobe less than 1 day. Because based on our previous theory, any research project that is longer than 33 Technolobe are optimal. So we do not need to look at the other shorter research projects that will waste more than 1 day per Technolobe. We only need to look at the shorter one, the below one, the ratios that are below 1. So then we compile the list. Well, this list, I was pretty naive back then. I thought I compiled a list for the research projects that are below 3. But it will also give us a pretty good intuition of the distribution of those Technolobe. And well, as I showed you before, this list is only research consisted of only research projects that will waste below 1 day per Technolobe. So this is an optimal list. Besides all the huge gigantic projects that will take more than 33 Technolobe. Well, it includes some of them too. See here, 68, 38, 51, 95. The numbers are pretty good looking. See, it's a pretty very low waste. Yeah, but it's also interesting to take a look at the number that are slightly larger, or let's look at the distribution. So here I plotted a diagram of the number of Technolobe per a the number of waste for Technolobe, the number of days wasted for per Technolobe versus the number of Technolobe. Well, number of Technolobe, the y-axis does not actually, it's not that important, but the most important thing is the x-axis. So as you can see, this is below 0.5, this is below 1, this is below 1.5, this is below 2, this is below 2.5, this is below 3. And you can realize that there's a cluster of projects, number of research that has wasted number of days below 1.5 days. So which kind of means that we can pretty gladly focus on feel pretty comfortable to focus on the research that will waste below 1.5 or 1 depending on your choice. I mean, I never paid for Lores Mobile, so I'm always a free player. So I will just focus on the number of projects that are the projects that takes that will waste below 1 day per Technolobe. But you can see there's a pretty decent gap. So you should also feel comfortable if you pay a little bit to cover the research that will take below 1.5, that will waste below 1.5. But I will just presumably focus on the research that are below 0.5, this column. And if I have some more time or spare energy, I will focus a little bit on the research that takes between that will waste between 0.5 and 1 day. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's the entire process of generating this list, generating this chart, and I will attach these this list, the link to this Excel in the below the video. Yeah. Yeah, and then if you have the Technolobe information for demoralize, where is it? Yeah, if you have the Technolobe information for demoralized uh, on level 8 and level 10, please let me know on the comment below, because I really need this information to further narrow down the number of Technolobe, the number of days a Technolobe can cover. Basically, to narrow down my upper bound and lower bound. My upper bound is 33.3, my lower bound 33.3, my upper bound 33.4. So yeah, please let me know. Okay, thank you.